Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. Well, I have a problem, and I think I've found a solution to the problem, or at least something. The recordings of Kaikhosru Sorabji are growing. I've got like a pile of them here, and there's some more. This isn't even all of them. This is just like, the upstairs ones. And I'm a little bit puzzled as to what to do with them, because listening to them seems to me largely out of the question if you're going to actually sit down and pay attention. Sorabji, in case you don't know, was this misanthropic nut job who wrote insanely long works for everything, for organ, for orchestra, for piano. He never heard most of them. So they can't be performed without some serious editing, because he sort of had no idea what anything sounded like. But beyond that, they're hours long, and they seem to have a cult following, and people are recording them. And I have had to review them and listen to them, and I really do. I give it my best shot. And I have these discs. And what am I going to do with them? I don't want to use them as coasters. I admire the artistry of the artists, the artistry of the pianists, particularly. That's what they really are here, who are doing this stuff. My God, it's an ordeal. Absolutely. And there's more coming. Some 5-hour thing has headed my way. And I'm actually very curious to hear it, because I find him a fascinating character. He lived in his little hut somewhere out in the wilds of England, and banned performances of his music after he heard some crappy ones. I don't blame him for that. And he was just sort of out there. But what do you do with his music? His music is chromatic Busoni on steroids. In other words, it's sludge, it's mud, it's wildly contrapuntal, atonal, ugly. Well, not always atonal, but sort of. And, oh dear, it's a problem, like I said. But I found a solution. I have found a solution that does what I always try to do when I'm at an impasse, which is combine music with food. And in this case, a recipe that I have been absolutely fascinated with, and I have to share with you. It comes from the Chinese cookbook by Craig Claiborne and Virginia Lee, which is out of print, unfortunately. But it's something that I will never probably make. But if I do, I know what I'm going to listen to while I'm making it. And you'll understand why as soon as I share the recipe with you. Hang on one second here. Let me find it. I think it's at the end of this section. Shark fin soup. Oh, here it is. Sea slugs with pork sauce. Yes, that's very, very special. It's a delicacy, absolutely. And something that I took a look at years ago in my peregrinations through the world of gourmet cookery, because I love cooking. It's so much fun. And I love cooking equipment and all sorts of stuff like that. But you just got to hear this recipe, and you'll know exactly where Sorabji fits into the mix. I've got it down. So, Virginia Lee writes, with Craig Claiborne, of all the foods that grace the Chinese table, there is probably none that will appeal less to the Western palate than the one known in English as the sea slug, or sea cucumber, and in French as bêche de mer. It is a black-colored sea creature with a horny or spiny exterior, and it is always cooked from the dried state. There are, generally speaking, 2 sorts of sea slugs available, one small, one large. When soaked and cooked, sea slugs have a gelatinous flesh that does not tempt to a fine degree most Western taste buds. It is nonetheless an important dish in Chinese cookery, and thus this recipe is included here. About 4 days should be allowed for the preparation of the dish, most of its soaking time rather than preparation or cooking time. So you see, I've got 4 days to play with. Sorabji's going to be perfect, absolutely perfect. Oh my gosh. And he is the sea slug of classical music. No question about it, because he takes forever, and he does not tempt to a fine degree most Western hearing buds. Taste buds, hearing buds, you do the substitution. So here are the ingredients. You ready? 1 large dried sea slug, about 8 inches long. Water, 8 scallions tied in a bundle. 2 pieces of ginger, about 1 inch each, peeled. 2 pounds of fresh bacon with bones and rind. 2 to 3 tablespoons dark soy sauce. 2 tablespoons of sugar, salt to taste. 1/2 of a teaspoon of monosodium glutamate. 6 to 8 dried black mushrooms, 1.5 tablespoons of shrimp eggs, 2 tablespoons of dry sherry or Shaoxing wine, which is really good, by the way, cooking wine, 2 tablespoons peanut, vegetable, or corn oil, 1/3 of a cup, note, of bamboo shoots thinly sliced, 2 scallions, green part included, trimmed and cut into 2-inch lengths, 5 thin slices of fresh ginger peeled, 1.5 tablespoons of cornstarch, and 2 tablespoons of rendered chicken fat. Well, that I can get because that's it. Kosher cooking. It's schmaltz. You got to get your chicken fat. Oh, it's yummy. Anyway, okay. So here are the directions, and Sorabji will appear as necessary. Step 1. Hold the sea slug over a high gas flame or an electric burner heated to high, turning frequently, about 1 minute. 2. Place the sea slug in a very large mixing bowl or other large deep utensil and add lukewarm water to cover. Soak for 12 hours and then drain. And while it's soaking, we have on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 CDs, at least 7 CDs, pardon me, Sorabji's 100 Transcendental Etudes on Bis, performed by Frederick Uhlen. Yes, here they are. Now, this is sort of typical of Sorabji's kind of witless megalomania. Liszt wrote a series of Transcendental Etudes. Other composers have done series of Transcendental Etudes. And, they're very difficult and exciting. I could write 2,000 Transcendental Etudes. You can write as many as you want. You decided to do 100 that last hours and hours and hours, and some of them go on for like weeks. It's incredible. They're endless. So if you're soaking your sea slug, why not pass the time away while the sucker sucks up water by listening to the Sorabji Transcendental Etudes? That's a nice thing to do. Okay. 3. Put the sea slug into a kettle large enough to hold it and add water to cover. Bring to a boil and simmer covered for 1.5 hours. Well, you've got an hour and a half. So, it's not a lot of time. You know what you can do in the hour and a half? Hang on. You can listen to the Toccata Terza, which I reviewed already, made a video about, I think. The Toccata Terza under Abel Sanchez Aguilera piano has all kinds of things, including a 48-minute-long Passacaglia and a 60-minute-long Fantasia and an 11-minute-long Quasi Fugato. If that doesn't help while you're boiling your sea slug, then I have no idea what will. So then, let's see. You let it simmer for 1.5 hours, let it cool, then drain and rinse. Add warm to hot water to cover and let stand 24 hours longer. Oh, God. Well, so you got another 24 hours. If you didn't finish your 100 Transcendental Etudes already, well, you could get those finished. And while you're finishing that, let me see what else we have here. Well, of course, there's the most recent extravaganza in the Sorabji discography. This thing, the Sequentia Cyclica under Jonathan Powell. It's a cyclical thing, variations on the Dies Irae tune, which really gives you a good idea of what gustatory delights are coming, too, if you know anything about that tune. Da, 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 da. Just what you want to eat before dinner or listen to. And it's Jonathan Powell at the piano and piano classics. Amazing. 7 CDs lasting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 8 hours or so, maybe a little more. So that's a nice thing to do during your 24 hours. You're going to go to sleep and all that stuff. You have other things to do. But to pass the time during your 24 soaking hours. Step 4. Drain and rinse in warm water. Carefully clean out the intestines on the inside of the sea slug, washing well. Well, we need some sea slug intestinal cleaning music, don't we? And for these shorter tasks, you've got Michael Haberman's 3-disc Sorabji piano music set, early works, nocturnes, and assertive works. Definitely you want one of the assertive works to clean out the sea slug intestines. I mean, that's an assertive task. 5. Place the sea slug once more in the kettle and add 4 quarts of warm water, the scallions, and the ginger. Bring to a boil, partially cover, and simmer 1 hour or until tender. Let cool in the cooking liquid. All right, so you've got another hour to kill, and that's virtually nothing. I mean, let's face it. So I think what we can do with that is the toccata seconda. Well, that's more than an hour. That's actually 2.5 hours. So you can spread it out over the next couple of tasks. This is also with Abel Sanchez Aguilera. Yes, a marvelous piece of musical hideosity. Okay, what do we get there? It's cooling in the cooking liquid, right? Yes, it's cooling. So while it's cooling, you can finish the toccata seconda. 6. Meanwhile, in a large saucepan, combine the pork, 5 cups of water, or enough to cover, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, the sugar, salt, and 1/4 teaspoon of monosodium glutamate, and bring to a boil. Simmer partially covered for 2 hours. Remove the pork, which can be chilled, sliced, and served cold as a separate dish. Isn't that a lip-smacking delight? Yeah, and set the broth aside. You need the broth. So you've got 2 more hours while you're simmering. And so for a couple of hours, you've got, of course, Opus Clavicembolisticum, which is, his most famous work. This is 5 discs. I mean, it's about 5 or 6 hours long. So take a couple hours, break it in bits, and use some of that while you're simmering, whatever it's doing there. Okay, so you've got your pork removed. Step 7. Similarly, place the mushrooms in a bowl. Add boiling water to cover and let stand 15 to 30 minutes. Some more Haberman. Maybe the Carmen thing is really kind of fun here. His early works, much entertainment, and only 55 minutes of them. Drain and squeeze the mushrooms to extract most of the moisture. Cut off and discard the tough stems. Set the mushrooms aside. 8. Drain the sea slug thoroughly inside and out. Let stand to room temperature. I mean, what temperature was it? I think it was warm, right? Now it's... Anyway, here, we've got some nocturnes. The Sorabji Nocturnes by Michael Haberman. They'll get you to room temperature for sure. Let's see. Combine the shrimp, eggs, and wine. Steam for 10 minutes. No biggie. 10. Heat the oil in a wok or very large skillet over a high flame and add the sea slug. Cook 10 seconds. Oh, sorry. There's no Sorabji that's going to work for 10 seconds. Then add the shrimp, eggs, and bamboo shoots. Cook for 30 seconds. Well, you're busy now. This takes work, so, Add 2 cups of the pork broth and the mushrooms. Sprinkle with the remaining monosodium glutamate. If the color is not dark brown, add more dark soy sauce and salt to taste. As the sea slug cooks, spoon the sauce over it. Well, that's a wonderful opportunity to finish the Opus Clavicembolisticum. While your sea slug is basting, while you're basting your slug, you can baste yourself in Sorabji's tortured, endless, contrapuntal lines. Okay. 11. Transfer the sea slug to a large oval platter. You've got to have your deluxe platter, right? 12. Put the scallions and ginger into the pan and thicken the sauce with the cornstarch, mixed with 3 tablespoons of water. Stir in the chicken fat and spoon the sauce over the sea slug. And you're in business. So you've gotten through most of Sorabji's discography that's been released so far, and you have this magnificent gustatory delight to show for it, the sea slug and pork sauce. And oh yes, there is the punchline, the yield. The yield is 12 Chinese servings, 95 Western servings. Can you blame us poor Westerners? Yes, so there you have it. You have the Sorabji cult, your 12 Sorabji servings, and your 94 Western servings. That's the rest of us, the people who can only tolerate small doses. The perfect marriage of music and recipe. So if I'm ever inclined to attempt sea slugs in pork sauce, which I can't guarantee is ever going to happen in this lifetime anyway, I know exactly which music I am going to take to help me pass the time while I'm anticipating the delights that await at the end of the entire procedure. Keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Pardon me. Thanks for joining me. Take care.